Let's just be real for a second. Things break. Disruptions are going to happen. A server goes down, a natural disaster hits, maybe a cyber attack. So the real question isn't if your systems will face an interruption, but how you're going to handle it when they do. So let's get into the strategies that separate the organizations that just barely survive from the ones that are truly built to thrive. All right, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to break this down into 5 parts. First, we'll talk about the reality of the threat. Then we'll learn the essential language of recovery. After that, we'll explore the architecture that keeps things up and running, face some hard truths about testing, and finally, wrap up by looking at the bigger picture, the mindset that really makes it all work. So let's set the stage here. We're not talking about some abstract, hypothetical thing that might happen once in a blue moon. No, we are talking about a constant, ongoing reality for pretty much any organization today. Check out this number, 4.2. According to BSC Designer, that's how many data-related interruptions the average organization deals with every single year. Think about that. That's basically one every quarter. This isn't some rare black swan event. It's just a regular part of doing business. And this quote just nails the shift in thinking, right? The pandemic was a massive wake-up call for, well, everyone. It proved that business continuity isn't just some problem for the IT department to solve. Nope, it's a strategic issue that belongs in the boardroom. Okay, so if we're going to build a solid plan, we need a way to measure what success even looks like. And in the world of recovery, it all comes down to 2 absolutely critical metrics. If you understand these 2, you are way ahead of the game. First up, we've got RPO, which stands for Recovery Point Objective. This one is all about your data. It asks a really simple but incredibly important question. If everything crashes right now, how much data are we willing to just lose forever? Is it an hour's worth? 15 minutes? Maybe just a few seconds? Your answer to that question dictates exactly how often you need to be running your backups. And its partner is RTO, or Recovery Time Objective. Now, this one is all about time. It's not about the data you lose, it's about the service being down. How long can your business afford to be offline before it really starts to hurt? A day? An hour? Maybe 5 minutes? This number determines how fast your whole recovery process needs to be. So let's make this super clear. RPO is about the past, the maximum amount of data you can afford to lose. RTO is about the future, the maximum amount of time it takes to get back up and running. One is about data loss, the other is about downtime. Don't mix them up, they drive completely different decisions.
So now that we have those key metrics, our RPO and our RTO, let's talk about how we actually build a foundation that can meet those goals. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of high availability architecture.
Okay, a core concept in any modern cloud platform, like Microsoft Azure, is the availability zone. The easiest way to think about this is like having multiple independent buildings on one big campus. They're close enough to talk to each other super fast, but they're physically separate. Each one has its own power, its own cooling, its own network. That way, if a fire or a power outage takes out one building, the others just keep humming along. It's just resilience through physical separation.
So when you deploy your services, you get a choice. You can go zonal, which means you put your application in one specific zone. That gives you a lot of control, but it also means if that zone fails, it's on you to handle it. Or you can choose zone redundant, where the cloud provider basically does the heavy lifting for you, automatically copying everything across multiple zones. It's built-in resilience.
But no matter how fancy the architecture is, protecting your data really comes down to these 3 pillars. You need a solid policy that defines what you're saving. You need real protection. That means secure, redundant copies, preferably in a totally different location. And the big one, you have to be testing constantly, because a backup you've never tried to restore isn't really a backup. It's more like a hope and a prayer. And that brings us to what might be the most important, and the most neglected part of any continuity plan. Actually testing it. Because let's be real, a plan that's never been tested isn't a plan, it's just a theory. This quote from the Disaster Recovery Journal just says it all. If your disaster test is scheduled 3 months in advance and everyone comes in with coffee, ready for a smooth run, you're not testing for a disaster, you're just putting on a performance. A real test needs to feel a little chaotic, because real events are chaotic. So let me paint you a picture. It's 3 a.m., alarms are blaring, and everyone's under pressure. To get things running again, you decide to restore the core system databases, master, model, MSDB from your backups. I mean, it seems logical, right? Get everything back to a known good state?
And boom, here's the reality check from someone who has clearly been in the trenches. The answer is a hard no. Just don't do it, ever. Those system databases are deeply tied to the specific server they came from. If you try to restore them onto a brand new disaster recovery server, you are probably going to break the new server completely. You'll take a bad situation and make it so much worse. And that piece of hard-won wisdom leads us perfectly into our final and maybe most important point. Real business continuity isn't just about technology, it's about culture. The official ISO definition here is actually really powerful. Look at the words they chose: absorb, adapt, survive, and my favorite, prosper. See, the goal isn't just to bounce back to where you were before the disaster. It's about being able to adapt to what just happened and keep moving forward, maybe even stronger than before. And to get there, as this framework shows, you need a lot more than just good tech. It takes the right institutional attitude, a culture that takes this stuff seriously. It takes a clear vision from leadership that understands the real risks. And of course, it takes dedicating the right resources, the money, the tech, and the people to make it a reality. So we'll leave you with this one question to think about. At your own organization, is your recovery plan a living, breathing process that's constantly being tested and improved? Or is it a dusty binder sitting on a shelf, just waiting for a real disaster to prove how out of date it is? The answer to that really says it all.